Hello, I am Sean Poindexter, and welcome to the first episode of By the Book. Okay. This series tries to finally figure out whether or not the self help books pushed to most individuals do what they say they're going to do or do the job that is looked for by the book um, or by the individual purchasing the book. Um, I currently have a couple books in my possession, and I haven't really fully implemented any of the teachings in them, due to, of course, most commonly known laziness, but as well as not being 100% sure that what was being shown would actually work, not really wanting to waste time. So I figured I would begin a series on it, and that way it's not wasting my time. I'm actually making videos, and hopefully, the books that I choose will help myself as well as viewers. So I would like to present a book that is very popular among many readers. And, oops. It was New York Times bestseller for the year, I think from 2005 or 2009. It says here on Amazon it was December 15th, 2009. So let's just go with Amazon's depiction of this book. And I have chosen The 4 Hour Work Week. It's a very popular book. If you would like to purchase it, you can choose to do so and read along with me. Link will be located in the description. You will, of course, have the choice of Kindle or hand cover. I also do believe there is an audio book format as well. I'll look for and place in the description if you desire to read along before knowing if it will actually work. It was a very enjoyable book. I have read it alone at least twice or thrice, and I have listened to it at least like 6 times. I'm currently re-listening to it, and I am planning on implementing it in my everyday life. Um, so, as you could see with the on screen, I have pulled up the Amazon page or the Amazon listings belonging to the 4 Hour Work Week, by again Timothy Ferris, which I ended up spelling wrong. Please forgive me. But that doesn't matter. Um, and what I would like to do is first do the research, okay, on the book to see what is the likelihood of it actually working. I feel like I personally know, but again, I may be biased because I've read the book a bunch of times, and my bias is only in aspect to actually after following and reading his book. I also indulged in his blog, which has a lot of content. I've also seen a lot of his videos, which again, he has produced a lot of content. Um, so my perception of him may be biased. Now, there may be other individuals who have heard of him but haven't read the book, and there may be other individuals still who have read the book and really have not applied it. So what we're going to do here is we see that on the Amazon page there is a total of 4,567 people who have at least spoken about his book. He has a 68% 5-star rating, and then the other stars, go down accordingly. So what we're going to do here is we're going to click and we're going to look to see what is ultimately the reader's review of this book. And we're just going to try to get a gist of the likelihood of the book's teachings actually being implemented and being useful. Because in the end, like, an individual can um, tell you, what something is going to be like, but sometimes you don't know until you've actually experienced it. As well as, different people can have different experiences. So we want to see, but just because, just for the curious individual. I read two of these earlier. Right off the back, this is a 2-star, and it says, I'm gonna read it for you. You can read along, or you could just listen. Um, there's a sucker born every day. Must read before purchasing. So basically, he wants us to read this, what he's written before purchasing. It says the title cover draws people in. 4-hour work week is too good to be true. Then we read and the first couple of pages, maybe the first couple of chapters. The first chapters are the typical motivational, you can do it montage. I'm not going to lie, I felt motivated to give this book a try after reading the first part of the book without ever knowing what this book is all about. But as I began to get out the fluff and I actually found myself reading the core subject of the book, I was utterly disappointed. In the book, he has like little sections and he defines them with letters and meaning. So here, he states D is for definition. In this section, Tim Ferris tells us to do an important task to find what we want. And I agree that most of us live through life not knowing what we want and just following the crowd like a herd of sheep. This section is motivational, make you feel good. This wasn't the how, this was the why, and it downright made you feel pumped, which is true. E is for elimination. So basically, he says to eliminate all the junk in your life. For example, watch TV less, check email less, and etc. So that's good as well. I'm not going to read the entire thing. I don't want to waste anyone's time, really. A is for automation. So basically, that means get your business model after you have created some type of business. Get it to be automated where you're not the bottleneck. First, he tells us to go outsourcing a big chunk of your lives with a VA, which is a virtual assistant from India or Shanghai, etc. But he may be a little biased on that because he uses it himself, as well as he may, get perks from, bringing individuals into that crowd or into those specific companies, because he does, place little plugs, of course, inside of the book. Well, there could be a bias behind that. As that's just what I stated. He says you no longer have the urge to control your own life when it comes to paying bills and stuff. So what this individual says, summarizing this whole section, he basically continues and says that ultimately you're going to be wholeheartedly dependent on the VA that you have hired, to the point where if they F up, your whole situation is messed up. So that's not too cool. Let me turn down the music. Okay, that's a little better because I didn't want to be yelling. I felt like I was yelling. You know how the classical music it gets over on your voice sometimes. It gets all hyped. Just trying to create a little sophisticated ambiance. Anywho, he tells how you can make $40,000 a month automated income with little work, but basically create a product and sell it, and that's plain and simple. However, I'm just gonna not use the rest of this. I'm not gonna read the rest of that information for the automation, ultimately because I've already spoken about some of it, as well as a simple basic fact of the matter is, I do believe in selling products, yes, but I'm not certain that in this day and age you can 100% make all of your income based off of one simple product. I say this because number one, I'm starting from the bottom, for my own benefit and for your own benefit. I want to start at the complete bottom so that way anybody who decides what they wants to do, what's being presented in this book, can really do what's being presented in this book. I'm also currently writing my own book, based off of this information as well as other books I've read, to perfectly allow individuals to actually, in this day and age, implement the teachings that I give in the book. Because, one, of course, these books are not updated. Two, a heavy majority of the writers who write these books are already well off when they first begin writing the books, and because of that, their perception can be a little biased because they don't, they can't remember, or they don't tell you exactly what were the circumstances that got them into the position that they were in at the writing of the book, or during the writing of the book. In some section of his book, he does state that he wrote a book that flopped called How He Beat the Ivy League. But again, in order for you to even be able to beat the Ivy League, you had to be in a position to even compete. Meaning he had to have a certain income stream already, whether it was family or oriented or otherwise. It is still more, than your average individual, everyday person who would pick up this book in the first place. I myself am an average, ordinary individual to a certain standpoint. Um, so then he goes on and talks about liberation, L is for liberation. Um, he's basically, in this section, he speaks about liberating yourself from the workplace, depending on what kind of work you have, ultimately killing your job or quitting your job or creating a mini retirement, taking a month vacation to a 2-month vacation, etc. But this only works if you have a job where you're in a office environment. Okay, for a heavy majority of Americans, they're not in an office environment. They're in an environment where they have to flip burgers. They're in an environment where they have to take out trash, mop floors. This is so more along the lines of this entire book can be really predicated upon giving it mainly to office individuals. Office individuals can soar with this book for real, for real. They can go pretty far because the office environment ultimately does not need the individual to be in the workspace due to the fact that technology, internet, and Wi-Fi and etc. give you the option and ability to be in many places almost simultaneously. So therefore, this book would better benefit an individual who works in the office day in and day out. As for a person who works at a fast food restaurant, a waiter, etc., and a person who actually has to move, has to get up and do things. Um, this book I believe that this book can still work, but you will not be able to use liberation. Okay, just period. The only time you'll be able to use the liberation is if you're gonna quit your job. And if most people who are well off, most people who are rich, that's because they started a business, or it's because they inherited a business, or somehow they're in business. Okay. With that being said, we know that everyone has heard that the average business will fail within its first 2 to 5 years. If it makes it past that, you still got it's possible that it could fail within the 5 to 10 year framework. So quitting your job wouldn't be so intelligent, especially because in the open market, just like the stock market, things change. So what is in now may not be in, and especially with the internet, being so accessible nowadays, the market keeps changing and fluctuating. So if you're not an adaptable individual, then you may not be one who can continuously sustain this the income that you have been receiving. So, um, yeah. So I'm going to continue reading what this individual says a little bit. Now, obviously, he's against advertising, Tim's advertising methods because it's misleading. Although he does somewhere in the book state that, in order to do these kind of things, you have to be smart. You have to be catchy. This book only sells because it makes a person who has a 9 to 5 hope that it's possible to just have the 4 hours. Now, what this individual is saying right here, about Bill Gates, about Steve Jobs, Warren Buffett, etc., etc. Um, One, Steve Jobs, Bill Gates, around the same age, old as dust. Okay, and the time period that they were coming up in is completely different from now. It was a little bit slower. Everyone didn't have access to the internet. These guys helped make people have access to these technologies that we have in this internet that we have. So it would be stupid to put them in the same damn category. Okay, their time period is different. Warren Buffett, old. Clint Eastwood, old, and if I'm not mistaken, that's an actor. I think he's also a movie producer or something like that. But they're it's not that fast. Okay, these guys were working in a time period that was slower. I mean, now you can get a video to go viral, make millions out of nowhere. Okay, not that everyone wants to get into making videos, but the point of the matter is clearly this: that that's a totally different time period, man. Totally. Um, he talks about Yahoo, Wired, Silicon Valley, and Hell. From Jack Canfield about Tim Ferris' book. But now from people like Gates and Jobs, Buffett, Eastwood, or any other highly successful people. Why? Because those four know that true success comes from years of hard work and building lasting relationships with people. I think is mainly the building lasting relationships with people. Okay. Those four know that decreasing your work hours, outsourcing your life, and making tons of money is not the road to true happiness. And those four people, even if they read this book, will probably know it, throw it in the fire. But for the cynical, how do you work a little and make tons of money people out there, which is most of the population, this book will initially look like the next Bible. The fact of the matter that this book was so well says a lot about society. For real, it says that society is changing. Um, this individual can't grasp that. It's okay. Um, but basically, what Tim Ferriss is saying is you don't have to kill yourself in order to make money. I mean, that's really the bottom line of the book in and of itself. Common saying is if there's a will, there is a way. He found the way where he only has to work 4 hours a day. I mean, 4 hours a week, and that's not saying that he actually does this. Okay, that's saying basically that he has 4 hours a week that he actually absolutely has to do something in order to do in order to keep anything else going. However, he's made enough money so that he can continuously hire VAs so that they can continuously make his stream of money continuously come. Why? Because as long as they keep doing the good work that they do, he can keep doing the good work that he does. And if he can keep doing the good work that he does, they can keep getting paid. And if they can keep doing the good work that they do, he can get paid. So it's cyclical, okay? And because of this, he only has to work 4 hours a week. 9 times out of 10, he doesn't. He doesn't. But what he does do, he doesn't consider it to be work. I mean, we've seen him in TED Speaks. We've seen him do. He has his podcast. He has his television show that you could purchase on Apple iTunes. He has a ton of other stuff that he does. Because of those, but he doesn't consider them work because he just does it because he wants to, and it just so happens that with his newfound fame and success, now he gets paid to do these things, and he doesn't consider it work. Okay. So because that was so lengthy, and we're now hitting the 20-minute mark of this broadcast, I'm going to end it right here and continue in another video. So we'll be getting back to buy the book. This is Sean Poindexter, and I'll see you in the next video.